Dandavat pranam Maharaj. Dandavat devot.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam to you.
How are you doing?
Good Maharaj, how are you?
Okay, good. Dandavat Bhakti.
Dandavat devotees.
Dandavat sat-cit-ananda, Aditya, Bhagavati Didi, Priyadarshini Didi, Priyadarshini Didi, Dandavat.
Dandavat Maharaj to Srila.
Oh, morning Maharaj.
Dandavat Maharaj.
Dandavat Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Devi. Devi. Dandavat.
Absolutely. That's okay. Oh, Dandavat, Slanda to you. Who's free again? Free.
Dandavat Maharaj.
Hi, how are you?
Okay.
Good.
I'm good. Been on holiday.
Oh, okay.
Yes, holiday.
I don't know if the tree is still there. We don't know. Oh. Hare Krishna, Sri. Who is Sri? No. Oh, that's the disciple of Saranagati.
Dandavat Pranam Maharaj.
Yes, Dandavat. Who is that?
Sachidulal Das.
Chakidulal, right. Dandavat, Prabhu.
Dandavat Maharaj.
Hey, okay. Yin?
Dandavat Maharaj.
Oh, there you are. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice.
From Hyderabad.
Dandavat Maharaj.
Dandavat.
So we begin with Vandana. Vandeham Sri Guru
Sri Guru.
Juta Alakamalam. Sri Guru Vaishnavamcha.
Sri Guru.
Pujya Guru Varga Vandita Mahavandita
Mahavantaya Sada
Parampara
Purva
Pragya Pramurja Kriti Bhaktir Nirmala
Nityanitya Jai Sri Gurudev Founder-Acharya Varamjam
Vista
Kalira Sita Cinta Samatya Vedam Nirupa Pantanagam
Bhagavan Premo Hivya
Deva
Devaktiyatam Sushandavanam Bhagavatsela Siddham Sandanam Puram Samarika Paramaya Bhuti Siddhantari Shubhakti Lasita Saraswatanam Amritam Shubhagam Marikam Saranam Yashishvaram Sridhara
Siddhanta Saraswati
Bhakto Anurima Puravata Gagani Sugam Sankirtane Mayavada Vindinodara Gatanuripya Nima Krishna Prema Shubharigaha Sukam Brahma Pramutam Paye
Namo
Bhakti
Hare Bhakti
Sri Gaura Sakti Swarupaka Bhakti Sastranga Sakshudanidhi Gauraviya Tateshashai Vaishnavamandyapi Brahmande Brahmadim Bisa Vaishnava
Shakapati
Kirpa Sindhurya Vacha Patitanam Pavivyo Brahmanebhyo Namo Namaha Panchadharmakam Krishna Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavantakya Namami Bhakta Samtika
Om Mahavana
Namo Mahavadaya Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Krishna Namaha
Tam Suratam
Yadam Srito Mama Sita Karsam Bhusvane Gopi Gopinatam Yestuna
Jaya Tulsi
Jaya Tulsi Devai Priya Krishna Bhakti Pradipino
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri
Nityananda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gopal, Srila Gurudev, Srila Chaitanya, Srila Santa Maharaja ki Jai.
Jai.
Srila Gyanmuni Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Om
Jai.
ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Giri Govardhan ki Jai. Nandi, Hari, Hari.
जय श्रील भक्ति माधव पुरी महाराज की जय।
जय
Maharaj.
Okay, then Prapanna-jivanamrtam. I know Sripad, Paramahamsa Parivrajaka-charya, Sri Sripad, Bhakti Rakshak, Dev-Goswami, Jai Sri Prapanna-jivanamrtam. Chapter 2, text 33. We read this last time. Chakaya mano vaikya sadhya Pravaspiti varana vacha tataiva manasa vidan tatstanam asritas tanva modate saranagataha. Saranagati, to be practiced in thought, word, and deed by this power of speech. The surrendered soul declares, I am yours. In his thoughts, he knows the same, and in person, he takes refuge in the Lord's holy abode. This way, the surrendered soul passes his life, his heart filled with joy. Saranagati, abundant or surrender, to be practiced of thought, word, and deed. Thinking, when we think, we consider ourselves to be the producers of thought. And when we think, I think. Cogito, Descartes said, I think, cogito, ergo sum, therefore I am. But he got it backwards. Actually, he got it backwards. I think everyone thinks they are a producer of thought, that we produce thought. And how do you do that? If you ask someone, how do you think? How do you produce thought? And they once say, no one can tell you how they do it. No one. Why is that? If you tell someone, write your name in Zuhili, and that person will say, well, I don't know Zuhili. Do you know anyone know Zuhili here? So if I ask you, write your name in Zuhili, can you do it? No. Why? Because you don't know Zuhili. You can't do something you don't know. That's the problem. That's the point. You can't do something if you don't know what that is. And yet, people say, I think. Then you ask how you did. I don't. Then how you can be doing that? So when we have to think of surrender in terms of thought, we have to realize thought is not under my control. I am under its control. There's a thinking, but it's not necessarily mine. I may think it's like that. And then it becomes subjective thought. There is a thought higher than our own. There's a thinking higher than our own. And that thinking is universal. We could say God's thinking, God's thoughts. Aristotle said thought can think itself. Thought has its own agency within itself. Surrender, Jai. The Bhakti comes from the Maharaja. Jai.
Jai. Dandavat pranam Maharaj.
Dandavat pranam Maharaj.
He has its own life. Life of thought. It has its own existence, its own reference to itself. It took Aristotle, a person like Aristotle, to understand that. And Hegel also, a very high conception. So thought, that means thought, we must be surrendered to Krishna and understand that that is not only our ability, and not that we are free to do what we want, think what we want, but there is also kind of necessity. That thought must be, if it is true thought, if it is to be understood properly, proper thought, must be understood in connection with the Absolute, with God. So even in thought, we're not independent. And if we see ourselves as independent, we are in a kind of a delusion. Delusion, I think. Something like when we look up at the sky and we see the clouds moving, then we say, the clouds are moving. Actually, that's not a fact. The clouds can't move. They don't have any feet. They have no means of propelling themselves in the sky. No means. Then how are the clouds moving? They're not moving. The cloud has any path, any agency to move. It is being moved by the wind. That's why the clouds move not on their own accord, but by the force of the wind. Something like that. We are thinking, but it's not by our own activity, not by our own agency. It's going on so that we are participating in that. A very subtle thing. Yet, Saranagati, in thought, always thinking of Krishna. How I am the servant. He is our master, and I am the servant. Word or speech. Word must also be surrendered. Word, what is word? Word is actually the body of the thought. The thought takes a bodily form, sensory form, in full word. What we speak is making sensible in the sensuous what we are thinking. Thinking is not, we cannot touch or smell or feel or anything. We cannot do anything with that, with thought. But when we utter a word, the word utter means make outer, outer. What is inner becomes outer. That's called utter. So the uttering of a word is the outering or externalizing of a thought. It becomes tangible. Thought can become something tangible, yes. We think thought, well, who can understand what that is? But when we speak, the thought becomes manifest in some sensible form that we can hear. Subtle sense, hearing. Hearing is detecting the ability to detect the word, which is the manifestation of the thought. So in the Bible, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh, something like that. Already, and it says in the Bible, the word for word is logos. In the beginning was the logos, logic. And what is logic? Logic is the science of thought. And the Bible is even saying, in the beginning was the thought, and the thought was made flesh. They put it in the beginning was the word, but really the word means logos. And the word is already sensuous. The word is already something sensuous. So to make flesh means to make it sensuous, make it part of the sense world. So the sense world and the thought world are not separate. They can't be separate from one another. There's a connection. That way, Word also we have to understand is not a separate thing from the Lord. Not that we can just speak whatever we want, that we are actually, that our words are to have no connection. Whatever we say, we may think that is something, something independent, something that we could use any words we want and say anything we want, as if that had some truth or factuality to it. Those kind of words are, for example, nonsensical, frivolous talk. Frivolity is something very sacred. It's something that has a very profound meaning. So to understand that speech has to be in relation to the supreme, the divine, to which it is coming. Animals don't have words. They say they have language, but they really don't have any words, don't have any grammar. They have no literature, things like that. The word is something particular for the human being. They have a special intelligence to be able to form words and language. But that is something divine and not to be taken cheaply, our words. And deed, what is deed? Deed means act. Thought, word, and deed. Huh? Deed means to act. In ancient Greek, the Greeks had a very difficult time understanding action or movement. They understood how profound that idea is. Just to think for a thing to move, what a profound idea it is. Actually, it's very hard, almost impossible to understand what movement is when one thinks about it. Of course, we see everything is moving, we take it for granted that everything moves, and it's a very simple thing. But if we look deeply at what it means to move, they're very difficult to understand. Actually, it's a contradiction. Saying that something moves is a contradiction because the thing that's moving is actually the same thing in two different circumstances. And they give the example of the arrow. When the arrow is moving through the air, any point that the arrow reaches, at one point it's there, and at the other point it's not there. It moves. It means that it's at one point at one time, and then at the next time it's not there. But that time between it's being there and it's not there, that time is spontaneous. It's not that there's 1 second it's in one place, and then the second it's in another place. That's true, but what changed from that 1 second to the second? Where was the arrow in between those seconds? So it's like a moving picture. One frame, then the next frame. And if you put them together, all those frames, it looks like a moving picture. Huh? But each frame is frozen position. And then when you pass it through a machine with a flickering light, it looks like it is moving. But actually it's not moving. The arrow on the film is not moving. The images on the screen are not moving. Okay.
Devahuti is asking, is it possible to put subtitles?
The movement is a contradiction. Something has to be in one place and not be in the same place at the same time. It has to be there and it's not there at the same time. Movement is always to accomplish something. fulfill something. Movement is based on a lack and an attempt to fulfill that, to fill that lack, to fill that gap, fill that emptiness. So when things move, Aristotle explained they're trying to reach their center. The center, just like we have gravity, gravity means all things, all bodies try to move to a center, the center of gravity. So when things move, it's because they're not in their proper place. They're not fulfilled, lack of fulfillment. And when we move also, it's due to a lack of fulfillment. We call that desire. We do things because we have some desire to fulfill. And then we do something to get that, to fulfill that desire. In Sanskrit, we call that karma. And that desire to fulfill some inner insufficiency. And then we do something to get to satisfy that. And then we act. So that's called fruitive activity. We act for some result. We act to get some fulfillment. So we have to understand what it is we're desiring. Why do we desire? Why do we act? What is that fulfillment we are seeking? And if we think it is just some finite thing, some worldly thing that will fulfill our desire, we'll get that thing and then we want another, because that desire is fundamental. It's fundamental to us, to who we are, to a living thing. That's what keeps it moving. That's what keeps it alive, the desire. So fulfillment of desire is a very fundamental quality of life, of any living entity. But what is that fulfillment? And that's very important to understand. Vedas tell us that the only thing that will fulfill us is not something finite, some finite achievement. In this world, there's all finite things. We may achieve this, we may get $1 million, and then after we get $1 million, you know how it is. People want $2 million, like that. It never stops because 1 million is finite, and 2 million is finite, and so is 10 million, and so is 1,000 million, or a billion. All finite things. So we keep trying like that, because finite things don't satisfy. We will only be satisfied with something infinite, something that will remove all limitations. Will be without limitations for us. And that, the Vedas explain, is Krishna, the infinite. Until we have that, then all our desires remain unfulfilled. So like that, thought, word, and deed all have a significance beyond mundane conception. All have a divine significance. They're connected with the divine. If we look deep into what each of those things really is. So by the power of speech, the surrender declares, I am yours. I am yours. The real things that we are after is already in us and acting in us. Although we think we are acting, that higher thing is acting within us, manifesting itself in us. So a truly realized soul will understand. I have no independent existence. I am here because you wanted it. And say we are the thought. We're just the thought of God. I am yours. In his thoughts, he knows the same, and in a person, in his soul. And he takes refuge in the Lord's holy abode. Now, what is that? What is the Lord's holy abode? We say Vrindavan, Vrindavan or Navadvip. But that's a geographical location. Is that what it means? They have to be living in Vrindavan in India, a certain geographical location. We have to take refuge there. It means we have to live there. Many cows and mules and asses, chickens live there. Does that mean they have taken shelter of the Lord's abode? No, living there is not what taking shelter means. Having a house there. Not what it meant. Take shelter in the Lord's holy abode. Vrindavan is the land of love. If we understand this, that Vrindavan is the land of love, then taking shelter in the Lord's abode means taking shelter in the world of love, becoming a loving being. We explained before the function of the soul is to love and be loved. That's its function. Soul is created for that purpose only. And if it is not understood what the proper shelter of that love is, then we engage in loving so many things in this world. Our career, our wealth, our power, education, so many friends, whatever. But that is not the fulfillment of our love. Because again, those are all finite things, not satisfy our infinite longing. That longing which is infinite by nature. And we get love in this world by looking for power, prestige, fame, adoration, so many ways. But that is not love. And so many actors, they become idols, singers and whatnot. They're this is one what's her name? Sanid?
Indeed.
Sanid?
Okay. Yes.
What's her name?
She just passed away. Yes, Sinead.
Sanid. Yeah. From Ireland. She just recently passed away, a 56-year-old singer. She was very famous in Ireland, everywhere in the world. They respected her as a good singer. But she was terribly lonely. She died from depression. But getting fame from being adored by the whole world is not enough. One can have that fame and still be very lonely, still be very depressed, because it's not what we're looking for. That won't satisfy. Only be satisfied when we have Krishna and the love of the Lord and his devotees. Then we'll find that our hearts become satisfied. So this way, when one lives in that consciousness, one has that consciousness of loving the Lord and loving the devotees and being loved by the Lord and the Lord. That consciousness is the abode of the Lord. When one is living in love, divine love, there one has to take shelter in that. There we will find our home and our full satisfaction. This way, the surrendered soul passes his life, and his heart is filled with joy. Here's the solution. Here's the final conclusion. The summum bonum is the greatest benefit that the soul can experience, the soul can have. Sri Maharaja used to tell, you are Amritasya Putra. You are sons of nectar. You are sons of nectar, sons and daughters of nectar. You are born to taste nectar. You are created to relish nectar. That is your real eternal nature. And if you are doing something other than that, then you're wasting your life. You're not only wasting, but in sin. You are creating more burdens for yourself, more misery for yourself, going in the wrong direction. So we must understand that if we're not experiencing ecstasy, if we're not relishing the ecstatic, loving relationship that Krishna has with us and with all living entities, especially with his devotees, then we're missing out. We're not home. We're in a foreign territory. And there we'll always feel unhappy. Just like the fish. You put him in water, in the ocean, wherever, he's happy. You put him on the land and try to give him so many different things. Give him a television set, air conditioning, whatever. The fish will be unhappy. He'll simply be flipping around and dying. But it's not his environment, not a proper environment. So the proper environment of the soul is Vrindavan, the land of love. And if he belongs there, and our refuge should be in that only, taking refuge in that land of love, proper love, divine love. Hare Krishna. And this chapter ends, Iti Sri Prapanna-jivanamrtam, Sri Shastra Vachanamritam, Nama Divito, Vitiyo, Vyaya. This ends the second chapter, Nectar of the Scriptural Word, and the Life-Nectar of the Surrendered Souls. So these are all directions, statements from the scriptures, the Shastra, and the various compositions of the devotees. They have given us so much literature, and if we study that literature and extract the things they have said from those words, what they have said about Saranagati, then Srila has put some of those choice verses in this book for us to read and to relish, try to understand, and try to apply in our life, try to realize in our life. Any comment, question? Next chapter will be the words of the devotees, what the devotees themselves have said about Saranagati.
Dandavat Maharaj.
Yes, Dandavad.
Actually, in this, in our Bengali or Indian languages, this Manovachakai, this is actually mind, body, mind, speech, and the body, which is put here as a thought. and also the speech, which is the words, and the actions, the deeds, which is the body.
Yeah, he said here in this verse, it was translated as person, but it's true, it's the body.
Body and body is also simultaneously action, because body is not just something lying like that. And these three are the requirements for one to be in sannyas ashram. At least he must have done this much.
Yes, we must be willing to give everything. Sannyas means willing to give his body, not only his mind, but his body. Must be willing to give his body, his words and his mind over to the service of Krishna. That all must be given, not only his mind, must also use his body. Then it means that Vaishnava sannyas is not a renunciate. His body has to be used also. We're not afraid to use his body in service. Sometimes we may think that just being a Babaji or something like that is spiritual. And that going around like Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Prabhupada used to ride in a car. He used to tell his disciples to go to the West. And I told Sridhara Maharaj, Maharaja, they all went, even Sridhara Maharaj he told to go to the West, Prabhupada and so forth. And that's very unusual in India, because all these things are considered against the principles of spiritual life. Because their idea of spiritual life is renunciation of the world, renunciation of the body. But no, the teachings of our acharyas is that your body is to be utilized, not to be separated from the world, utilized in the world, utilized for service. That everything is to be utilized for service. You'll never come to the proper conception of spiritual life if we don't learn how to utilize everything, body, money, whatever it may be, how to utilize it all in service of it. Otherwise, it always remains mundane. If we look out the world and we see it's all mundane, that is our consciousness that is mundane. Our hearts are mundane. If we see everything as instruments for the service of the Lord, that's a different vision, a different consciousness. That's called Krishna consciousness. Vasudeva Sarvabhati. You can see Krishna everywhere. The Uttamadhikari sees even the so-called non-devotees as devotees. What we are seeing, Atmavan Manite Jagat, is that what you are seeing, that is what you are. That describes your own position, what you see. And you're seeing. Premanjana Chodita Bhakti Vilochanena. That the eye of the devotee, covered, smeared with love, sees Shama Shama Sundaram everywhere he looks. So depending on our advancement in spiritual realization, our own advancement and advancement in Krishna consciousness, we will see things differently as we progress. The whole world, the whole body will be transformed according to development of our own consciousness.
There's one more thing I feel about this thing. Like when we think about this first word, the mind, mano, or thought in this particular translation. Then when we think about it, so there is a senses which is connected to the mind, and sort of senses are taking in the input from the world, and those inputs are being integrated or differentiated by some portion of the mind, the mental faculty, and then it is presenting to the world of senses or the world of thought, to the so now this whole thing, this whole like dynamic organic what to say, activity of the mind or thought thinking. So unless it is properly realized that thought is meant to serve the highest, it can also put us to the lowest of the, like the world of sense enjoyment, because sense are intimately connected with thought. So it seems that this whole thing is a very progressive understanding.
The senses only give us the indeterminate, the being of things. Senses only says that something is there. In English, we call it it. It. That's the object. That's how we explain the object in English. It. Or this. With a very general term and a very immediate idea. The it in our life, the objects. They're only its. But to say what it is, senses tell us that something is. That it is. I see a building. Oh, that's there. I see a cow. That's there. When you say it is a cow, then the it becomes determined, becomes negated. The indeterminacy of the it becomes negated. Cow is not merely an it, it's a specific kind. It's what it is. And a description of the it. It's called a determination of the it. If the it is there in our senses, it's undetermined, it's just there.
Particular being here.
Huh?
The particular being.
It is there.
Yes.
But what it is has to come from determination. And determination means thought. So we have to think of it before we can say it is a cow. The
Yes.
thought must intervene. So we look out and we see cows and trees and so forth, and we think those are the sensuous things that as total reality. But we forget the negative action of the determination behavior of the mind. Mind is thinking. Thinking means determination. Determination means thought. So it's not only an it. The world is not only made of sensuous its, but it's made of determinate its, determinate beings. And this determination means differentiated or thought.
Yes.
Thought being, thought out beings, or thought of. So thought and being are never separate, actually. If we want to, if we're talking about it in a very general way without saying what it is, it means nothing to us. We can't even specify what that might be. It always has to have some determination to it before we can talk about it, before it makes any sense to us. Yet we know there's a difference between that something is and what it is. To say that the senses tell us that something is, that a cow is, that a rock is, that a tree is, that a person is, that a cloud is. Okay, so the is there. The being is there. But what it is not coming just from the senses. is the activity, the determination of the thought of the mind. That tells us what. And that's why we have a difference between these two words, what and that. And there's still further determination. That's neither what or that. What is that? Huh? That is who. Another determination, who. We don't speak of a tree as who, or a cow as who, but there is a who when we speak of persons. So there are many levels of understanding things beyond the mere senses, and we don't think about them. We don't meditate on those things, but they're all there. And if we think very deeply, we get to see how Krishna is behind the whole thing, and that we're always in His presence, and by His mercy, everything what it is, that it is, and who it is.
But actually, in the scriptures, they again differentiate this one Shakti, one potency, into three categories. That is, the Swarup Shakti of Lord is present as Gyan Shakti, as Sandhini, Samvit, and Aladini, three. So this Samvit is something like the body, which is the earth, our own body, senses, everything is some Sandhini. Like not directly, but some a kind of a, what to say, reflection of Sandhini. And then this Gyan Shakti, that this is my body, this is my arm, this is kind of a conception that relates the body to the thinking. So this is also like Samvit, or a kind of a reflection of Samvit in the material world. So it seems that this is also there in the way it has been described in our literatures. What you are saying.
It's all there. We have to put it together in ourselves.
Yes.
We have to bring it to.
If they say it is one potency, at the same time it is threefold potency.
One and different, huh?
Yes. Swarup Shakti, it is all Swarup Shakti, but yet it is Sandhini, Samvit, Sandhini, and Aladini.
Anyhow, everyone is not a philosopher. So, and we have the principles of religion that are for everyone, huh? The general principles of bhakti given by the Acharyas are there for everyone. Mahaprabhu has brought all this to the attention of living entities simply by telling them that there is the holy name, there is the Lord and His devotees, and the service of the Lord by His devotees. These three things are there, and try to see your life in that way. Engage your life in these things. And for the very simplest person, or for the most philosophical person, it's the same thing, huh? The same thing. If one accepts by faith, one accepts by conviction, these things, then he gets the same benefit as one who has understood through philosophy. Get the same benefit. Huh? You can touch your nose like this, or you go around your head and touch like that, huh? Well, you're getting the same benefit. But if you want to simplify things, then we take up the process of chanting the holy name, and in that way, doing our service, serving under the guidance and direction of Gurudev. And then we can see, and everything will become clear. Tadami Yuri Yogam Cha. Tadami Buddhi Yogam Cha. I will give you the buddhi, the intelligence, the knowledge, whatever you need. Sarvasya chaham ridi shani vishno, matasmatir jnanam apohanam. He gives everything. Huh? We just have to accept his method. Truth, not something you have to make up. We don't have to, what do you want to say, put together a truth and not a composition of ours. Truth is already there. It is something that must be submitted to, must be surrendered to. Huh? And not something that has to be thought out by us. It's already there. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Okay. Any
Maharaj,
yes?
in this moment, I remember very year ago, I am very young in this time. In this time I read some book on Guru in India, Ramana Maharaj, but this Guru is no impersonally. His natural if the person is impersonalist, but he is writing your book about the thing in what I am, what is that, what is body, what is mind. But I read the book in my soul, no like that filter, that guru, because in my soul save me, my soul save me in my mind. In this book, no are the truth, because no, I not feel love in this teaching, or no lie. Entonces, yo no finish read the book de Ramana Maharishi, and they free. I am read book de Vivekananda, Ramakrishna, Mission Ramakrishna. No good. My soul sell me in my mind. No, in this book, no are the true. No, but one day I'm read a little book the Srila Prabhupada. The name book is Lord Krishna, the way to the reality. I don't remember exactly, but little book, little book, my hair, wow, boom, oh, in this little book are the truth. Very simple, little book simple, but forward, very forward.
Okay.
Jai Gurudev.
Right. Ananda Prabhu. Sri Ananda. Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else try to say? Okay. Maharaj. My Dandavat Pranams too. Bhakti Discount Santa Maharaj. Bhakti Vigyan Muni Maharaj. Sayananda Ji. Devaki Didi. Pragya Didi. And Linda Didi. All the devotees. Krishna Keshara Prabhu. My Dandavats to you.
Dandavat, Maharaj. Here to here, Maharaj.
Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Maharaj.
And Maharaj.
Dandavats.